Mr. Mark Murphy, and being an attorney and a cartoonist that likes to spend a lot of time making fun of Mitch McConnell, but I have a more serious question as a Black American woman. As this country moves into an authoritarian regime and we move into genocide, that's why this election is more important than ever. As we look over how Hitler took over Germany and therefore we had the Holocaust, people need to understand and realize, would you not agree, that Hitler did not do it by himself? There were several individuals around him that helped that particular cause. And as I look back at history, and I know you're a history buff like me, it just seems like step by step the same thing. And we have this Mitch McConnell that is helping Trump to commit actual humanitarian crimes against people of brown and Black color. As an activist, what can we do? As a lawyer right now, what can we do? Because most people that I've talked to and sources that I have don't even trust that things can stay calm and leveled and we just do our regular voting and GOTV until November the 3rd. Do you have a sense of something maybe brewing in the witch's pot? That's what I call Trump and his whole administration and Mitch McConnell, the witch's brew.
I don't think that it's unreasonable to believe, and I can't believe I'm saying this, and if anybody had said this 3 years ago, you'd be considered a kook. I don't think it's unreasonable to believe that unless there is, when you talk about the witch's pot, unless there is an overwhelming, both popular and electoral college victory by Joe Biden, I don't think it's unreasonable to believe that Trump won't leave the office. And he won't leave the office not like a Ugandan president, and he won't not leave the office like a South American dictator, at least superficially, at least on its face. But the precedent's already been established by a Republican nominee, candidate for president, that the lawsuits will begin. And this gets back full circle to the Ruth Bader Ginsburg absence on the court. And, when we're talking about Ruth Bader Ginsburg not being on the court, I think we need to continue to remember that there's two other gentlemen who are on the court who shouldn't be there either. We've been through now in terms of personality flaws and personal flaws and judicial philosophies. One is better, frankly, in a lot of ways than the other. But Brett Kavanaugh shouldn't be on the United States Supreme Court. And why do we still not know why Anthony Kennedy retired when he did, with a son working at Deutsche Bank, who has all of the money that Donald Trump has been laundering for others and for himself? I digress. The election, unless it's such an obvious landslide, even then, since Donald Trump has spent and Mitch McConnell, again, supporting him. And the thing that's, to a certain extent, that's even worse about Mitch McConnell is he won't say the things that Donald Trump says at his rallies because they're so ridiculous and outrageous, about voter fraud and you can't trust this and there's all these things. But he won't speak against it. And his silence is complicity. He stopped being a partisan a long time ago, and he's a collaborator now. Again, another word that you don't hear, you haven't heard the word collaborator since the Spanish Civil War or since World War II with the French. So Mitch has allowed this to happen. The election will likely be thrown to the courts. And how many judges has Donald Trump appointed through Mitch McConnell? Is it in the hundreds? There's a lot. There you go. And so all over the place, and they'll be able to pick where the case is filed. It may be in state court. Ultimately, it can always find its way to federal court. And if not, just like the election in Florida with Bush v. Gore, the case can end up in front of the United States Supreme Court. So we may have 2 or more justices appointed by Donald Trump, not just conservative Republicans, but appointed by Donald Trump, deciding whether or not the election that we're getting ready to have was lawful and can be overturned, or whether we need to redo. And all those things, all that messiness works in Trump's favor. The fact that there's even a lawsuit and there's even a question helps his supporters feel emboldened. When I first started drawing political cartoons for the Courier Journal, it's been about 13 years now. And to your first analogy, Kimberly, it would never have dawned on me or any other legitimate political cartoonist to ever use a swastika or to make a Nazi analogy in a political cartoon. Joel Pett wouldn't have done it in Lexington because it would have been considered over the top, and it would have been considered childish and easy and not effective. But now there are legitimate parallels to, if not National Socialism, then to other authoritarian regimes. And the use of a swastika, the use of a comparison to Mussolini, or the use of, you could fill in any number of examples, is no longer, not only is it no longer considered over the top, it's old news at this point. And you've got to come up with something different. So it was a long way of saying, Kimberly, I think there is something in the witch's pot. And I think that with an attorney general who's quite literally willing to do everything Donald Trump asks him to do, because Barr's got his own agenda as well, which has to do with turning our nation as much into a theocracy as he can. He's said this in speeches. Yeah, we're in trouble.